Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the AFC Newsday channel. It's been a minute, but it's great to be back. Apologise for a little bit of a break, but it's always great to turn the camera back on and the microphone and be back here on AFC Newsday. This face next to me, Mr. Matthew. Matt, how are you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah, very well, thank you. It's been a bit, but brilliant to be back. How are you?
Mate, I'm all right. I'm a bit under the weather. I'm just recovering from the other side of a bit of not illness, but just like coldiness. But I'm good, thank you, mate. But we've got a big show packed today. We're going to talk about Manchester City coming to the Emirates tomorrow. All the preview, all the lowdown, and we've got some special guests on to do that. But before we get them on, please do make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not already. If you're watching live or if you're watching back, it would be great if you can subscribe. And like the video, do make sure to check out any other videos on the channel. We've already got someone that's come in saying, do not lose. So no pressure, Arsenal, tomorrow. It's a huge game. And we've got, we thought we'd welcome on an Arsenal fan and a Man City fan to talk about some stuff this game. So first of all, let's welcome on, we've got two debutants. So let's welcome on someone that, he's, you might recognize him. He's always in the chat box and it's great to finally have him on. It's Yambele. Yambele, welcome on the channel. It's your debut. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm frazzled already, and it's not even talking about the football. It's the early morning start when you've got kids, guys. If anyone who's got kids, it's just Saturday. Saturdays are usually club day, and running from one to another, it's a joy, I would say. But I'm looking forward to this. Looking forward to chatting about the game tomorrow. I can't lie, I'm deathly scared. I know it's just 3 points, but mate, here's a true top of the table clash. So you've got to be excited for that.
Absolutely. What do you do on Saturdays when Arsenal are playing on Sunday? Do you have a bit of a routine? Do you watch the
content, mate? Content. Just get the mobile out, watch the content, watch you guys, watch everyone else. Just get the. Do you know what? I try to download as much data as possible because you just want to know what's going on. And all this week has only been about 2 topics: is Saka fit? Is Saka fit? Is the England squad going to contain Saka? We'll talk about it, but you want to find that good content. Not there's always accounts out there that are talking about random stuff, but you want to get down to the nitty gritty of the game and understand the facts. And I'm glad we've got a Man City fan because you want that perspective as well. You don't want to be just we're going to roll it over or we're going to do this, that. You want to understand where the problems, who's playing, who isn't, and what's going to be the challenge. Because we all know what City are about, but they've still got injuries, but they're still turning it on. Champions League this week, they were really good. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, they pulled it back. I think everyone was like, oh, whenever they go a goal down, which they did in their last Premier League match, and especially in that game as well, they went the goal down, and everyone kind of sits forward and go, could they lose? And normally it's just like no.
It's such a rare occurrence. The Wolves game. I'm sure we were all like, after the Arsenal game ended, we were like, hold on, Wolves are 2-1 up. Yeah. No, it's not going to happen. So I flicked over. Actually, when I flicked over, I was like, no, it's not going to happen. They're going to score in the last minute, and then they'll get another one, isn't it?
And
it's very, very, very rare for City to lose a game. So it's like an event when it actually happens.
It's an event.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
When the full-time whistle went, I was just like, I wasn't even happy because I was so in my mind that every time the opposition scores against City are going to equalise or score again. So I just didn't even bother getting excited anymore.
That's the thing. You're so used to it, aren't you? That when actually you're like, did they actually lose?
Yeah. Well, there you go. Exactly. Lads, let's not slag off Man City without having someone come here and defend them. So let's welcome on another debutant and someone to, this is the first opposition fan we've had on, so it's a pretty big deal to talk about Manchester City, to give that side of the story, the argument. We wanted to welcome on Luke, who is a Manchester City fan. Luke, how's it going, my friend? You well?
I'm good, thank you very much, mate. Yeah, as I said, I know you were discussing the Wolves game last week. Trust me, we were awful. We didn't win that game at all. So, you trust me, you won't get any lies here from me. I'm going to be honest with you about how we are at the moment.
Yeah. Very nice, very nice. We appreciate that. Well, man, it's good to have you on. Thank you so much for your time. We'll get some insight from you, and then we'll carry on to talk about Arsenal a little bit afterwards as well. But big shout out to some guys watching. I know Sash is watching. He's only here for one guy apparently. So
Love that.
Matt.
What can I say?
Should we just all exit now and leave it to Matt then?
Yeah.
Sash, the big man. Sash is
We'll leave
a
it to
legend.
him. We'll leave it to him. But shout out to Sash. Great to have him there. And this guy says Partey must start. Rice and Saka will produce magic. We're bigger now. Need 100% team effort. We can do this, mate. He's motivational talking before we're even there. I mean, we need him in the dressing room to be fair. But yeah, it's a huge game. And I'm buzzing. I'm going to be there. Yem, you're going to be there, of course. Matt, any joy with a ticket?
It's looking tough, but still on the lookout. So I have to see.
Luke,
last minute tickets. They do come up. So
they do. To be fair, and Matt, you're only just up the road. To be fair, as well. So hopefully something comes through.
Up the road's a bit. I mean, close. not quite Islington, but no.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, last season Liverpool, pretty much the same date as this game, was the one I got on the day of the game. So you never know.
You never know. Luke, are you going to the game at all, or are you going to be watching from the comforts of your own home?
From home this time. I wish I could go, but trying to get a ticket away is never easy as it is, especially with everyone always packed out every time I go to Arsenal. So not this year, but both like next time. So yeah,
sure. Let's talk about the games because I prepared some slides. Oh, there we go. We've got some slides. Let's talk about the game because we've got plenty to talk about. But I will just skip through a few because I wanted to. Obviously, Luke's here to provide some Man City analysis, and I wanted to kind of touch on that first. I want to talk about some key players because for me, I think Arsenal's best player this season has been Declan Rice. I think he's been sensational. A new signing coming in, he's fitting straight away. He's been superb for Arsenal. And a Man City player that has stood up for me, and I think a lot of people, is Julian Alvarez. Luke, can you talk to us about Alvarez and what you've made of his start to the season so far? Because he's come across like he's been scoring some really clutch goals for you.
Oh yeah, he's unbelievable this season. I think last season he was getting goals. Like it's obviously like against Liverpool or teams like that. He was always getting like the goal in or getting the assists here, and he was really sort of being that kind of team player. And this season he's really stepped up into a proper since De Bruyne's been obviously out injured. I think De Bruyne's back. I think hopefully in November, December, from what's been discussed. Alvarez has been that really key player for he can sort of get creative and get them to assist, but also score those really, really big goals. A lot in Germany on Wednesday. So he's just he's an unbelievable player, and I'm really pleased that he's taking on that kind of mantle. Losing as a key player in De Bruyne, it's to anyone losing a Kevin De Bruyne to anyone is also a massive loss, but especially for our team as well to have someone like Alvarez who can sort of show that kind of pedigree and that sort of mentality to sort of give into the team and step up. It's great, man. It's amazing.
For sure. And where does he kind of fit in, Luke? Because does he play as like a second striker? Does he play, as a main out and out striker? Because what's the dynamic like with Haaland in the team? What does kind of set up there?
Well, Haaland plays obviously as a striker, but it's more like a 4-2-3-1 system. So we have obviously when he's obviously not suspended like a moron, is Rodri. Obviously,
rare occurrence these days, clearly.
Oh, that red card! Don't worry. Yeah. Rodri he plays there. I've Rico Lewis who plays there. Who's great, by the way. On Wednesday, he was great. 18 years old, unbelievable. Rico or Kovacic, whoever we play there. We have I think Doku or Grealish, whoever we play on the wings, Bernardo Silva, and obviously you've got Alvarez just behind Haaland. Okay. So obviously De Bruyne obviously would play behind Haaland usually, but because obviously De Bruyne's out, Alvarez sort of taken that role a lot to water really, and he sort of really showed that kind of creative style that I didn't think he would have. Obviously I know he's a good player, actually for River Plate, but. And also a good goal scorer, but the fact that he's able to sort of find that kind of a creative ability to sort of get involved in the play, that's really important for how we're doing this season. I think having him play on Sunday is big because it'll give lots of Saliba and Gabriel something to worry about, because obviously you've got obviously you've got a striker playing attacking midfielder, but he still just hit one from a long range and goes in probably past the keeper. So it's like kind of like it's a different level of ability that we've got on that team, which really helps us going forward.
Sure, yeah. No, I think we've seen, like from an outsider looking in, when De Bruyne has had like these big injuries, we've almost always seen someone step up in his absence at Manchester City. You think of, Gundogan, I think it was maybe last season, 2 seasons ago, really stepped up and scored a load of consecutive, really clutch goals for Manchester City. And now Julian Alvarez is that man that's kind of stepping up to the mantle, and, he'll be a threat come the weekend. Even though De Bruyne is not there, he's going to be a threat. And you kind of touched on it, Luke. And my next slide is, how to stop Erling Haaland, because for some it's an impossible task, and he's a bit of a monster. Yem, I mean, I'll ask you, Yem, does he strike fear into you when you see him lining up on the other side? What's your, I know you're not exactly the most optimistic about the game tomorrow already, but
No, but
how do you stop Erling Haaland? I mean, they've kind of done it once already this season when, in the Charity Shield, Haaland didn't really have a sniff. So just more of the same, really, from that game. Do you take inspiration from that?
we have to play our own game. I mean, the fact is, you shouldn't be worrying about one player and putting special emphasis. Look, you've got two very, very good defenders in Saliba and Gabriel, who are a unit, and you have to trust them and trust the defensive unit to do their job. Haaland is a superb player, but but I'm sure Luke will tell you he's slightly limited by his build-up play. That's nothing to do. He is what he is. He's an out-and-out goal scorer, and he's excellent at that. You give him one sniff in the box, he's usually going to score. But outside of that, he struggles. And obviously, they played a different system last year when they put Erling slightly deeper than De Bruyne, and he was taking, he was getting the headers and winning the first ball. He's not going to cause you trouble in terms of a dribbling or making excellent passes. What he's going to do is pace, power, and being that last line, that last attacker on the line. So we're going to have to trust Gabriel and Saliba. I don't think you make special plans for that. I think you play your game. You're at home. You play your game. If you're good enough, then you're going to cause City a problem. That's what's going to be. And we know how these City and Arsenal games go. They're very tactical, very nuanced. There are games within games. That is how it is with these two coaches who are elite level tacticians who will be trying to eke out an advantage in each area. So I don't think you try to stop Haaland. You play your game, and Haaland, if everything goes well, will become an afterthought. But you can't, City will attack well. That's what they've always done. But you have to be better. So the midfield is going to be key. And I'm sure we'll talk about that. But the midfield is key tomorrow, because what you're going to get is, depending on how we structure ourselves, are we going to have a powerful midfield that dominates no offense to City, but without Rodri, they do look a different prospect in midfield. Rodri is probably the best defensive midfielder in the world. There is, I don't think there's an argument. Without him, they do look a different prospect, because Matheus Nunes, Kovacic, no disrespect, are not the level of him. Maybe in a year or two they would be, and Luke can tell otherwise. But we should be able to put forward a midfield that should be able to attack that City midfield well. I'm not trying to downplay City. City are a fabulous team, and we know tomorrow will be awkward. But I think we should have enough that we should be causing problems, and we are at home. We should be taking the game to City.
Absolutely, yeah, no, 100%, and that's what I'd want Arsenal to do. And almost from, again, I didn't watch all of it live, but the North London derby kind of frustrated me from what I did see, because it didn't come across like Arsenal fully took the game to Spurs at some points in that game. But on this one in particular, we've had some comments in. We've got Ollie's tuned in saying he's loving the show. And he reckons Kai to lead the line. He's fantastic with his back to goal and can drag players from the edge of games and allow for overloads and especially wide areas. I think it's a very good point Ollie makes there. I think Kai Havertz is someone that a lot of people have been calling to start up front in this game. And if I saw him starting up front, I wouldn't have an issue with it. I think he did well in the game against Manchester City in the Community Shield. And with his back to goal, you can't deny he's a physical presence, and he can bring the ball down. He's someone that can, is a different type of striker to what Arsenal have got at the moment. That's Generation Gunner, said Saliba versus Haaland is tasty. Respect City's depth. This will not be pretty. And he reckons as well, Kai up front, fancy Raya to Kai in the box, and Jesus snapping up the second ball. He's visualised the goal there already for Arsenal to win it. There we go. Luke, we'll get a few more from you because I will just just touch on a few more Man City points. And Matt, don't feel left out. We'll come to you in a minute. But just to ask as well, Luke, sorry, what's some of the key kind of team news going ahead to tomorrow? Because we know that these two players won't be playing. There was some talk about John Stones being back for this game. Bernardo Silva's come back into training recently, hasn't he?
Yeah, so Bernardo Silva's probably going to play. That's definitely confirmed. Stones, no. I'm surprised England have actually called him up because I don't think he should be going anyway because he's just come back from injury. I don't want him getting injured against Italy or probably Australia, and then he's out for what's like New Year. It's very similar to how you guys are with Saka. It's sometimes you got to think, right, give him a break, seriously, because otherwise we're back to where we started again at the start of the season. I think, obviously, if Rodri's not injured, as obviously if he was injured, if he wasn't suspended, he'd obviously be playing this game. But I think in terms of injuries, it's basically how it really is. Really, I mean, no Stones, no De Bruyne, no Rodri. I think apart from that, everyone else is back and ready to go on Sunday. But I mean, so that Rodri red card was really annoying. I really don't understand what happened against Forest. I mean, it's like everyone else lost their heads.
Yeah, I lost my head. I did a knee slide.
I greatly appreciate.
I saw it. I saw the Arsenal timeline just going to absolute meltdown in a good way.
Yeah. What Arsenal probably should do is, I'm not saying do the exact same thing because Arsenal are confident as well. Losing heads as well, getting really obviously a very young team. Heads can go at times, but City don't like it if they're up in their face a lot of times, like really, really in their face. Obviously, City are a team and very up for it, was in the running, but at times, especially like Edison and like that, they get really feisty and really up in the moment, obviously because they're a South American sort of their way of doing things. I feel like if Arsenal are going to get everything out of this game, I think they definitely can, by the way, because we haven't been perfect ourselves this season. Use that kind of aggression, that kind of passion from the crowd to get you going, because that crowd is going to be a big, big reason if you do win, because they really get behind the team, and that will help them.
I will say that it's a really interesting point. Sorry, Matt, and Luke, to cut you off. It's the crowd is something that's been talked about this season. Are we getting too over emotional in our games because we've made silly mistakes? So the crowd does play a part, but I think there is something's there that's causing Arsenal players an issue because we're making silly mistakes, and that's what we don't want to have in this game. This game is about you have to be perfect against City really to extract anything. I'm just wondering your guys' thoughts on, are we getting over emotional at home? Arteta said it. Away, we've been certainly a lot better. We play our game a lot more. But at home, we seem to get drawn into the emotion of the situation. Like Tottenham, for example, we went ahead, everyone was up for it, and then all of a sudden we let go of it. We took our foot off the gas.
Matt, do you want to take that one? Go on, Matt.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think if you think about last season, not even the start, I'd say that early to midway through the season, we were blowing teams away. Even towards the back end of the season, bar the last few months or so, we're beating teams 3-0, going 1-0 up inside a few minutes. Very much like an old City team would, scoring really early on. And ever since teams have very much given us the respect, they've sat a lot deeper against us, and that's just stopped happening. And they stop allowing that long ball to happen, from the keeper, for example. And I think that plays a big part. And teams probably know as well the best time to hit Arsenal is early on when maybe they're not as prepared. When Arsenal are in their flow, they're an incredibly difficult team to beat. Centre-back partnership in itself, there's no vulnerability or no real area you can be like, okay, we'll attack that. I know against Lars, Zinchenko was a bit of a problem defensively, and obviously there's been a lot of comments about that in the past. But I think when you factor in all those things, it's hard to say whether we're getting too over emotional or potentially we're just not setting games not setting games up right, but it feels like a bit of a common thing now that we concede a stupid goal early on. A stupid goal in general happens. I don't really know how to explain that because that just happens at any minute. But I think that could be a big factor, really. And in terms of us getting a bit over emotional, it's a difficult one to say, really. I don't think there's anything you could say which is 100% true or 100% not true. I think you could definitely say, players could get, drawn into it because you go off pure adrenaline in games like the one against City or games with big atmospheres. So you could say that is the case, and then concentration levels drop and stuff. But it's just difficult to say, as I say, because I think Arsenal are most vulnerable from the off. The team knows if they concede against Arsenal in the first 5 minutes, it's probably done. Not done, but as good as done in that sense. When Arsenal, I think, 1-0 up of an incredible record. So I think that says it all. And I think that coincides with, I guess, the notion that potentially we're getting too over-emotional. Maybe that factors in with an early start. But generally speaking, I don't overly think that's the case, although the home record is a bit perplexing, particularly the goals we do give away.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. It's an interesting situation, and I think almost maybe a little bit too much of it gets made of it sometimes. But I do think there's an element of truth to it. Maybe a lack of concentration after going ahead, something like that. But I don't find it overly worrying. I just think it's more maybe a little bit inconvenient, and Arsenal have tripped up a few times. But I've got enough faith in the manager to make sure that it doesn't become an issue to that level. Luke, just before we let you go, thank you so much for coming on. I did just want to ask you, let's get a score prediction as well. But can you talk us through the game? Talk us through, Manchester City, they'll arrive. How will they set up? What kind of system do you expect them to play? Because I know Pep, sometimes he maybe overthinks it a little bit, but it works sometimes. Because I remember last season at the game, he played Bernardo Silva at left back. And I was just thinking, why is Saka not running at him more? And there's some really interesting setups he goes for. But just talk us through the day. How's it going to go for Manchester City? How will they set up? How do you see the game going? And then a score prediction, please.
Of course, yeah. So I feel like this game is going to be different than what a lot of people are going to expect it to be. I think what he's going to do is Pep's going to sort of, again, like curveball. He always, every game does it. Different team, what does I think it's going to be. I think people are thinking that Doku's going to start. He won't start. He'll be a super sub. Because someone like Zinchenko or Ben White, when they're feeling a bit knackered, Doku comes on, the pace, straight away, changes again. I think Pep's going to, yeah, exactly. He's an electrifying player. I feel like that's going to be a super sub option. I do agree with Pep for doing this if he does to do this tomorrow. I think it'll be Bernardo Silva, Grealish, Alvarez, Holland up front, Kovacic and Nunes obviously in midfield, pivot of midfield, and then back line of, I reckon, for me, it should be Gvardiol, all of them. Gvardiol's an incredible centre back. I know he's a young man, obviously. He's got a lot of time ahead of him. But what I've watched of him, he's been brilliant. Like Ruben Diaz at the back of time, just sort of both blocking all time and chances going in. I think if you don't have Ake on the left, Gvardiol and Diaz, Walker and Ederson and Goff, and then that would probably be the team he goes for. I mean, shock horror if he goes for Doku. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because it's Pep's always random with his teams anyway. So it's why FPL is always difficult to do because you never know what teams you have. So go what you will. That's what I think it'll do. I think it'll do a curveball. Everyone will think it'll be Doku, and it'll go something a bit different. Now, I think for the game, it'll be quite open. I think Arsenal will score first. I feel like Arsenal are going to actually be up for it because they'll want to actually, beat us for the first time in the league. And fair enough, it's been 8 years since you actually beat us in the league, so it's been a fair long while.
I was 14 years old. I was 14 when Arsenal last beat City in the league. Crazy, right?
Yeah. I think the Community Shield's a different game to analyse. A lot of people are looking into it too much. Like that game, I don't really care about it anyway because even if you win, it's great. If you don't win, it's fine. It's more of a game.
Best day of my life.
Oh, yeah. To be fair, I feel like the Community Shield's more of a template for how the game would be at the Etihad, not at the Emirates, because we allowed City to play from the back, and we could, if we jumped onto them, that's what they wanted, and we would. I don't think at the Emirates it would be quite like that.
Yeah.
No.
Sorry, Luke. Carry on. Sorry. Yeah.
No, that's fine. That's fine. No, I just feel like it'll be open again. I think the thing is, like, don't focus on Haaland if you're an Arsenal defence, because Haaland's obviously an issue. It's the supply he needs to stop. Because obviously, Kevin De Bruyne's not there. If De Bruyne's there, then all of a sudden the game is a whole different game at that point. Because De Bruyne is that kind of player that can find Haaland out of nowhere. Like, you think you're marking Haaland, all of a sudden one ball over the top, goal. It just happens out of nowhere. But I feel like what you got to do is you got to stop the supply. Because City are going to constantly keep moving the ball around all the time. And it's hard for anyone because you've got to try and mark Haaland, you've got to mark the distance, next guy there. It's going to be difficult for anyone to sort of deal with. So I think it's going to be about how Arteta manages the team also, and with the energy from the start of the game. Because, again, I think it'll be like a game of chess, first off. Always is. It'll be a massively loads of goals being fired in. It'll be quite a resolute, maybe a 1-0, maybe 1-1, depending on how, obviously, penalties or goals, what happened. But it'd be a very chess kind of first half. Second half, be a lot more intense. A lot more pressure going in second half. I think we'll play a lot better than we have in previous games. I think the Wolves game was just an absolute terrible performance from everyone across the board. No one did well. I went out that game not really angry, more angry at the fact that the team didn't really care very much about that game at all. Wolves were by far the better team. I think it'll be a much different game because I think the players will actually be up for it. I think that is what will be a big difference to the last game. I think Leipzig was a real sort of show of what City can do when they're in a game. Obviously Leipzig are a very good team and doing very well in the League edition. But again, it's a whole different game. But it just shows that there's different layers to the City team than there were last year. Obviously, I wouldn't say it's weaker or even better. I'd say it's different, and that's what will be a big tell. Now, for a prediction, I'm going to go 2-1 City. 3-1 like last year. I think last year, Arsenal's heads went after 2-1 up. It just, City just took right to them. Haaland got the goal and that was it. It was done. This year, Arsenal will be a lot more, having that kind of experience they had from last year. They're a different team this year than what they were last year. They've got the experience of a title running, which is important because Liverpool had that with us. And then the year after, they won the league. I'm not saying you guys will necessarily do that, but you never know what happened. So yeah, I think when 2-1, as I've got to back us, obviously, that team has got support. But it'll be a very close game tomorrow, and yeah, it'll be a good game.
Luke, it's been great to have you on. Thank you so much for your insight, and I would say best of luck for tomorrow, but I hope you have horrible luck in the game.
Oh, no.
But thank you, mate. But no, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. And we'll definitely speak to you again soon on here at some point. Thanks so much, Luke.
Thank you, mate. Thank you, guys. Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Take care. Luke there, really appreciate his time and an insight. A Manchester City fan, prominent on the on the Twitter space. But great to have him there. Mbele and Matt, just the three of us. Let's talk now. Before we won't go on for too much longer because I'm heading off to St Mary's to watch Southampton versus Rotherham this afternoon. So duty awaits. But I'm I'm heading off for that game.
It's the warm up. It's the warm up, isn't it?
Oh yes. Oh yes, I can't wait. But let's talk about Arsenal. We'll get the slides back up and let's reflect a little bit on the. Matt's face kind of summed it up there. Let's reflect a little bit on what happened in midweek, the Champions League game, losing away at Lens in the Champions League. Matt, I haven't spoken to you much so far. What did you make of the game? And, what were some of your main frustrations coming away from it?
I think it's just waiting too long to realise something's not working. Saka obviously coming off was not ideal. And I do think people grossly underestimated Lens. Obviously, we spoke about in previous episodes that they lost Dependa and they lost Seko Fofana and they've not had the best of starts to the season. But not only is this a huge occasion for them, as is any Champions League game, everyone wants to play in the Champions League. But I think it's first game in like 20 years or something crazy for them in the Champions League, which is huge. But they're also a really good team and they've got a really good manager in Frank Hayes. They've got some really good players, as we saw on Tuesday night. They were completely clinical as well. I don't really think 2-1 was justified on the balance of the chances. But you know, that's how it is. It's fine margins. And it was a stunning first goal from a poor mistake and a second, which was a really nice finish from a bit of poor defending. But on the actual game itself, I think my biggest frustration was the fact that we just waited too long. Saka came off, as I say. Vieira coming on. I didn't really understand that because he was just completely isolated. He had no support. And I felt even then it was kind of clear that we could exploit their, you know, relatively high line or in transition. But we just went for another ball to feet player. And Saka was the only one being quite dynamic along with Jesus as it is. Jesus was obviously down the middle. And we just couldn't penetrate at all after that. And ever since Saka went off, ever since they scored, to be fair, but more so ever since Saka went off, it was just one of the worst Arsenal games in terms of watching it I've seen in a while. It was just very stale. It was very predictable that nothing was going to happen for us, really. Okay, cool. You know, you could argue that Arsenal easily could have won the game or easily could have drew the game with Tomiyasu's shot. Smith Rowe had a chance, but very half chance. And there were a few others, like Trossard's shot when he cut inside. But generally speaking, I thought we were really uninspiring. And I think that just stems down to realising the situation you're in a game and knowing the right personnel to bring on. And I don't think we got that right at all on Tuesday. I think the fact we made the subs in the 70th minute was just about 15, 20 minutes too late. We had ever since almost the 30th minute to understand that the dynamics just weren't quite what they should have been. And we just wasted, I want to say, about 15, 20 minutes of, you know, not having Reece on the pitch, not having Emma on the pitch, who I thought, again, was really bright. And I think Eddie came on towards the end as well. These type of profiles are players who we need, you know, they're huge parts of our squad. And, you know, it's either a case of, are they good enough and they play a huge part, or you get others later down the line. So those profiles, I think, are what Arsenal needed far earlier on in the game. And it's not really a surprise to me that ever since the likes of Emil Smith Rowe and Reece Nelson came on, Arsenal did look more dynamic and a lot more threatening. And I think that's just what's frustrating for me. As I say, we could have won the game, but I don't want to go off.
Yeah, big chances.
Yeah, but I don't want to go off moments per se. I want to more go off, you know, sustaining pressure, deserving to win the game and creating enough to do so, to where you can miss chances and not every moment gets looked at, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, and we won't go too deep into it, but are you kind of along the same lines, just a frustrating night?
Yeah, I'm with Matt around his points that it was deeply frustrating. You know, there was a question around Saka, should he play? I thought it was a bad move to start him, to be honest, because I think you could see he hobbled off on the last game at Bournemouth. You've got to Matt's point, you have to decide what's the right structure at the right time. Arteta is a fabulous manager. Love him to death. But there are some aspects of his game that he's particularly his in-game management that I feel he needs to work on. And he should have learned lessons from last year, because he ran players into the ground by playing them too long in games, and then they were ineffectual and they didn't do anything for the game. And this is a perfect example that, you know, Saka clearly was struggling. He still kept him on for a little bit, and then he brought on Fabio Vieira, who I thought, look, Fabio's done a really good job. He's really improved this year. But is he going to be the one who is going to go behind the defender and run in behind? No. And what did we have? We had nothing towards the end. And true, I agree with Matt. We should have got a draw. I think a draw would have been a fair result. But the Champions League is not about that. It's a fine margin game. And we're going to come up against a lot better. And these fine margins are going to tell. And we're going to have to be, we can come to it. But I feel that Arsenal's goal efficiency and chance creation is pretty poor at the moment. And we're not scoring enough or taking our chances well enough. And that's going to cost us in games. And that's my biggest worry at the moment.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, it is a bit of a worry. Yeah, for sure. I'm with you there, Yam. Let's talk about the Man City game then, because, you know, let's lift the mood again, because, you know, obviously Arsenal had their eyes on this match and, you know, they just thought, you know, we'll just get through Lens and then this is a game we're going to play properly and we're going to batter City. And it's a huge one. And it's got a big game feel to it, as it should do. The last time Arsenal played City at the Emirates, it was towards a bit more of the back end of last season, and that kind of, you know, felt a bit more, you know, how do you say, a bit more, you know, the winner would probably end up going on to win the title. Yeah, emphasis on that game. But Arsenal have beaten City this season already. They went to the Community Shield, a fantastic day out. Yem, did you go?
Of course I did.
Oh, of course
Did
you were
I
there.
go? Of course I was row three, baby.
Were you? Do you know,
yeah,
I was,
mate.
oh man, I was lower tier as well, and the atmosphere was incredible. What a day out!
Do you know what? The thing is, that's what we need tomorrow. We need every fan behind the team. The player side and the emotion side is something different. They have to manage that, but that shouldn't stop the fans from making it an amazing atmosphere. And let's do, the away fans at the Bournemouth game showed us how it should be. We should be so loud that the Man City fans should not be heard. We should be up for this. Look, it is a massive challenge against a City team who are top of the league. Agreed, they are not at full strength, but they're still one of the most dangerous sides. But we should be up for this massively. This is what we're here for, to challenge at the top and make these games challenging. I remember, we all know for a number of years, we didn't challenge it. And these games came along, we were like, oh God, we're going to get absolutely slaughtered. Now we're going into
type games.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But now we're going into these games saying, look, we should be challenging. This is where we're going to win the game. This is how the emphasis has changed. And tomorrow we should be looking at, as I've said it, the midfield is a big key for me. Personally, I would start Rice, Partey, Ødegaard. I know Partey has not played enough, but you have got... I'm sorry, there is a discussion to be had about Kai Havertz at the moment. I want to give him the season, but I have certain concerns around the attitude at the moment. And I thought that the Bournemouth game would grow his confidence, but unfortunately the Lens game I have slight worries about him as a player, a £65 million player. I want to give him the season because I think you have to do that with every player.
Sure.
But I think tomorrow in a big game like this, you have to start Rice, Partey, Ødegaard. We have to dominate that midfield because without Rodri, you have got an opportunity to control the game. And controlling the game is going to be a big part of how we as a team go forward and create chances. Because again, we need to create opportunities and goal because they are a team who are excellent at exploiting that one opportunity and scoring the goal. And unfortunately against Arsenal this year, it's taken one chance, one goal. Every team has been really efficient against us. It's really frustrating that we as a team can't be efficient in front of goal, but every team is so clinical against us that we are punished for every single mistake. So you expect that. So tomorrow, I just want us to control that midfield, dominate, and just get make sure that we create the chances. It's deeply frustrating, and I know that's what he did in the Community Shield. He played Rice, Ødegaard, and Partey, and it worked to a treat because that midfield dominated and won the ball. I know Partey's half fit probably, but it's better than I'll be very honest, a Kai Havertz who's not interested in the game at the moment.
Well, you've got just to ask you to play devil's advocate. As much as yes, I agree with you. I think Thomas Partey, Declan Rice, and Martin Ødegaard is a midfield that I've said for a while on here that I think would dominate against most teams in the world. That's an incredible midfield. Even if you get that midfield come tomorrow at 3:30, what would you say though if you saw Kai Havertz was starting up front? Would you have a bit of a different kind of mindset to that if you saw that Kai Havertz is playing as a striker?
Not particularly, because Kai Havertz has done better as a striker than I feel. I think he's struggling with the left 8 role. I think so at Bayer Leverkusen, he was used to being the second striker and dropping off. And at Chelsea, he's been asked to play all manner of positions. And Chelsea, as we know, have broken the man because I've never seen a player so broken by Chelsea. We've had broke players before from Chelsea, but this is the most broken I've ever seen it. I don't know what they do psychologically, but it must be like some kind of a camp or something like that where they're just literally breaking them down and just say, look, why don't you play wherever you want and just do your own thing? And they're like, I have no idea what to do. The problem is that I think Kai's physical attributes suit him more to be the second, just slightly off the striker or up front. I think that's where his strengths are. I don't know if we shoehorn him into a system where do we play Gabriel Jesus to the left, and if Saka's not fit, that may be the case. Havertz up front and Trossard. The problem is where do you fit Havertz in? Because are we doing it for the sake of Havertz being a £65 million player, the top earner at the club, yada, yada, yada. Because I don't think, personally, for me, at this time against City, I would play Havertz at all. I think if everything's equal and Saka is fit, Saka, Jesus, Trossard, because I don't think Martinelli will be fit. And then you play that midfield that I said, because and then you bring Havertz on as an option. I think that's probably better for me personally. I think we're shoehorning Havertz into this game, and that's a detriment because I feel, quite honestly, we've been carrying him. I want him to improve and I want him to get goals, but in a big game, you can't carry anyone. You've got to play the strongest team and the one that's going to deliver you the most opportunities and the most goals. And unfortunately, Havertz is not that.
Absolutely. No, I think a lot of fans will agree with you on that. I think there's a lot of question marks around Kai Havertz, and we'll wait and see if he's in the 11 tomorrow, because he didn't start the North London derby, did he? Did he start? No, he didn't start the North London. Fabio Vieira did.
But I don't think this is a game for Vieira either, because I think you're playing against, even without Rodri, this is a very technical, very capable, physical midfield still. They will play a physical game because that's what part of the, we talked about a game within a game with Man City and Arsenal. You've got to be up for that physical fight. And Declan Rice in that left eight, I think, gives you such a good ball progressor as well. He's been doing so well in the 6 as a ball progressor. Can you imagine him in an 8 as a ball progressor? He will be outstanding. He can break. He's powerful. He's got a good shot on him. He's got a good eye for passing. I just think it's suited for him tomorrow. I'm not saying that's his long-term position, but I think against a City midfield, you want someone who's you've got 2 people who can break up the play, be physical, be in the battle, and then get us forward.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, we saw Rice in the left 8 earlier on in the season in that Community Shield game, and it'll be interesting to see if Mikel Arteta can trust Thomas Partey enough to come straight in a game of this magnitude and put him in that kind of 6th position. But we'll wait and see. 3:30 tomorrow, all will be revealed and we'll know what the lineup is, and I'm sure the meltdown will continue from then. But you know what? Let's just get into a few comments, because a few people have been putting stuff in the chat box. MJ saying that Rodri out is equivalent to when we never had Partey for these games in the past. Of course, that last game at the Emirates was when Jorginho played, and it was a huge game for him, and I don't think he played awful, but it's just not the quality that Thomas Partey's got. We've got someone saying this is not the key game. The return at the Etihad would be key for the season. But yes, of course, you can only play the games in front of you, so it's key for now. And
I'd still say
I don't agree with that either.
Yeah, I don't agree with it either. I think it's you're setting a bar. Sorry, Matt. I think you're setting a bar for the season of where we are. We have to have a measuring stick.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. And you can't be just focusing on that will be the only key game of the season. The most important game is the next game, and that's always the case for that. Rahul says that it's annoying. 2 or 3 seasons ago we never conceded from corners, but now we concede a lot of corners again. Maybe a concern for some, a concern for you boys. Do you think maybe a little bit too frail from corners and set pieces, Matt?
Yeah, to an extent. I think obviously that Paulinho goal we conceded earlier on was dead frustrating. And I think more so the goals we conceded last season, like the Senesi goal against Bournemouth or the Kaletakara against Southampton, was dead frustrating. But I want to say, obviously this isn't entirely related, but we found the new way of doing things offensively from set pieces. Yeah. So I don't see why we can't find a new way, or just making sure we stay really solid defensively, because we've evolved past. It felt like back end of last season and start of this season, not even start of this season, back end of last season, that set piece has gone out the window. We scored a few like the Zinchenko one against Villa, but in a different manner. But this season, we've had multiple set piece ideas, whether it's attacking Gabriel at the front post or coming short for a corner like the Trossard goal, which ended up as. We've had a lot of alternatives, and obviously the Rice goal as well, back post, where Gabriel takes up his man. So that's exciting for me offensively, and there's no reason we can't have principles like that defensively.
Yeah, for sure. Nico Jova, the magic set piece man at Arsenal. Oh my word, latte firms in the chat. No way.
I knew it. I knew he'd turn up at some. I knew he'd turn up at some point.
Oh,
hello,
Faisal. I hope you're well. We'll hopefully catch you at the game tomorrow. What a guy. the goat himself. But
it.
yeah, no.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't say that because
no,
that'll give him a bigger head than he's
lifting him
got
up a little
already.
bit more.
Ego's off.
Oh no,
The ego was already soaring. Don't do any more than you need to.
I look forward. But I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, Faisal. And Yam, of course. We'll look forward to seeing you. Let's just a few more things because I do have to get off to Saints Rotherham in a bit. But I did just want to. Bring us all crashing back down to earth again. The previous encounters.
Why?
So
Why
suddenly
We'll touch on it.
Suddenly got to go.
No. We're only going to touch on it. But the record is absolutely atrocious against Manchester City in the league. We haven't. I actually did a tweet last night when I said the exact amount of days since Arsenal last beat Manchester City, and it is 2,847 days ago. Yes, I was 14 years old. It's been a long time. So hopefully Arsenal can, beat that hoodoo and they can get the win tomorrow. It'd be a huge result. Let's just go through a few slides because we went through some of them with Luke earlier. Team news mainly for Arsenal. Bukayo Saka, it's been touched on. He's in contention. Can he be playing? We'll wait and see with that one. Gabriel Martinelli, there's not really been as much talk about it. It just does make me worry that he might not be involved at all.
I don't think he will. I think
so.
bench is the minimum. It's probably the maximum you're going to get out of him. Also, do you want a half-fit Martinelli playing in the game? Because that's just dangerous. Hamstring as well. His game relies on his quickness of movement and pace. I wouldn't. If it's a hamstring, look, we've said it's a marker game, but are we going to detriment our season so early that we lose a key player? This is the problem. This is the big balancing act. This is why I'm a bit frustrated with Arsenal and frustrated with our situation at the moment. With Timber out, we've lost a massive option because he was such a multifunctional player that it would have changed how we approach games. Let's be honest. Saka is. If he's not in the red zone, he's pretty much on the border already. And the talk of him going to England, I'm honestly scared about it because do England need him really? No, they've got Foden, etc. It's not big games. And this talk of a deal with one game where he's out for Australia, no. We should be doing what other teams do. Let's be honest, other teams play this game. If he plays tomorrow, then in the last 20 minutes, he goes off, he's hobbling, that's it. He doesn't play for the England team. Look, it's not the biggest games in the world with England at the moment. There are bigger things. Thomas Partey, as I said, if he's fit, he plays because you need that physical presence in the midfield. I don't care even if he's half fit, it's better than a Kai Havertz at the moment, who I feel is just struggling within himself to find out what he is, and he's playing in a role that's unfamiliar. So you get your best and most powerful midfielders, and you go up against a Man City team who, in theory, with Matthias Nunes and Kovacic, should not be as efficient as they would be with a Rodri in there. It's a real challenge, and that's the thing, Matt and Dan. It's tomorrow, that tactical setup is going to be key as to how we approach the game, and I'm sure that we will change it. But to Matt's point earlier, we've got to be prepared to change the game as well. If it's not flowing our way, Arteta's got to read it a little bit better and a bit sooner and say, okay, we're not getting it this way. We need to bring on Smith. I thought Smith Rowe changed the game for us. I really like where Smith Rowe is coming from at the moment. I think he's hungry. He's looking dangerous in the left 8 role as well, which is where he should. I think if I was choosing between, again, Havertz and ESR, to me, ESR brings more in that role if you're going to go for it, because I think he's brighter, he's sharper, and he makes more chances, and he's looking dangerous. So, and he's a known quantity. He you know what he is. So the injuries are frustrating because I think a couple of weeks ago we would have been coming into this game, Rodri out, we've got Bukayo, Martinelli. It's looking a bit more touch and go because do you trust the player? Vieira, again, he's done well, but is he really going to do it in this game? Mikel trusts him. I mean, it's a really hard one. I mean, it'd be interesting to get your guys' thoughts on where, do you start Bukayo? He's falling apart, the boy. Bless him. I don't want to see him fall apart. I just want to see him, he's our son, isn't he?
You just hope that the inevitable doesn't kind of happen like it's happened in previous games. And after, 15 minutes, you see his number going up and he's just limping off again. You just really hope it's not, something like that doesn't happen. But yeah, I think you start him regardless. Almost, I'm not a fan of this front line of with Nketiah and Jesus personally. I'm not a fan of the dynamic, and I don't think it works. So I hope he doesn't go for that when it comes to the team news.
He
But we
likes
will.
he likes it. He likes Nketiah
Yeah.
though, because he presses from the front. And
No,
he
I
presses
don't mind playing Eddie. I just think him and Jesus together.
I think Jesus off the left works better than the right. I find.
I'd rather play Nelson though. Personally, I'd rather play Reece Nelson than on the left. I think.
Oh, it's a hard one because Trossard, he does make a goal. He does.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. If Trossard's fit for me, I think he plays on the left. But
that's the thing. But
yeah.
that's to Matt's point earlier. We've got game changers, so Reece Nelson should be coming on. If the game is not going and Trossard is not having an effect, 60 minutes is the bet where I'd be saying get him on. Because otherwise, 20 minutes does not change your game.
Yeah. You're right there, Matt. Just took his headphones off. He was done for the day. But yeah, no, lads. Let's just kind of slowly wrap this up. I mean, the big battle: Arteta versus Pep. Can we get some score predictions, please, just to wrap it up? A big thanks to everyone watching. I'll give you guys a second to finalize your score predictions. But everyone watching, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitter, if you've been watching throughout, if you're watching back, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Please leave a like if you can. Subscribe to the channel for more incredible guests like Yembele and Matt's beautiful face. This will be here as regular content, so I don't see why you wouldn't subscribe. So please do make sure to do that. And big thanks to everyone that's been in the chat. Do comment any score predictions if you have any. But Matt, I will come to you first. Please give me a score prediction for this game, my friend.
Hot seat time. So you wanted just a quick answer, but I've got to say something first.
No, go for it.
I think there's two angles towards the City game before even discussing score predictions wise as well. I think I'm not bored of it per se, but I'm kind of bored of people dismissing City as a fixture every single time. It's almost like, obviously, our record against them is honking, and every single time we seem to play them, we seem to have key injuries.
Do you want me to get the record up again so we can see? Or should we just... No?
Rather, I'm all right, thanks. I'm all right.
Okay.
I think we're all right. But I don't... At the end of the day, if, you ask Arsenal fans, what do you want for this Arsenal team? Realistically as well, it's to win Premier League titles. It's to win Champions League titles. You can't flake beating the big teams. You can't flake beating whatever the best team, whatever, with two of the best midfielders in the world out at the same time. Of course, our injury side is not ideal at all. If Martinelli and Saka, I think Saka will start personally, just because that's who he is. But Martinelli being out is not ideal, but it happens. Injuries are going to happen. And at the end of the day, if Arsenal fans pride the squad in being really, really good and really rich, full of depth, then there shouldn't be such a concern to when injuries do happen. Because if Saka does play, obviously, a half-fit Saka and a half-fit Partey or a 70% fit Partey, but then the only other notable injuries are Timber and Martinelli, which is very normal to have injuries. It's very rare you have your full squad, at all times. So I think it can't be a thing where, we flake it. And I think last season when that game got postponed was mega frustrating, because I think the best time to play City is earlier on in the season. That's also why I didn't agree with that earlier comment when he said, the real game is in April or whatever it is, March, the back end of March. The whole circumstance is completely different at that point. City could be chasing us, we could be chasing City, and then the whole texture or context of the game changes. Whereas now, City obviously lost against Wolves, lost against Newcastle, beat Leipzig midweek, but they're without Rodri. How often will you go into a Man City game and say you don't just have a better midfield, you have a categorically better midfield? Almost never. So I think off the side of that, it's so important that we change the notion against Man City. There's, at home as well, obviously, and it's been a bit strange for us, but there's not a thing to just flake it. As you said, in the past, we've been in awful positions, going into the game against City where it's almost like don't get humiliated. But I don't think there's any other Big Six team which have near enough as bad a record as we do against Man City. And to be honest, there's no reason for it anymore, particularly the level we're at now. But onto, score prediction-wise, I think 2-1's probably the most likely if we're going to win, or a 1-0. I'm just going to say 3-1 Arsenal because I'm optimistic. Typical me. But in like a United fashion where we add a third at like the end of the game.
What,
So,
Jesus
yeah.
running through? I don't think you do the full City
Not
fans.
exact.
Yes,
Not
let's
exact.
go. Come on. I don't think you do the full celebration against City. But yeah, no. So what, you going for 2-1 or 3-1?
I'll go for 3-1 because I sent in another prediction thing and I put 3-1. Although I'm thinking more 2-1 or 1-0, which Yem's about to say like a 1-0 City.
Bold.
You can't list every score, mate. You can't go 3-1,
Why not?
2-1.
Why not? I think
Yembele.
either 1-0, 2-0, 3-0.
Yembele.
There will be a score in this game. That's my prediction.
Do you know what? It's going to be all this, and it's going to be a 0-0. That would be heartbreaking.
That would be. It's a really hard. I agree with Matt's point. This, you should be challenging yourself against the biggest teams, regardless of our injury situation. We can't make light of every team has injuries. Look at Chelsea, Liverpool, etc. Everyone gets injuries. This is just the name of the game. It's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a tactical game. What do you do with Haaland? What do you do with with Grealish? They've got so much talent across the field that you can't just isolate one player and say that's it. You have to go on them. As I said at the start, you play your game, and if we play our game, everyone's firing. Hopefully Saka is fit and raring to go and up for it as well. That's the problem. That if it's a half-fit Saka, is that really worth putting into the team? I think that's Mikel will have to decide that. But it's about game state is going to be key tomorrow. 60 minutes. If we're struggling to break through, do you bring on a Fabio Vieira? Do you bring on a Reece Nelson? I'm looking at Arteta to make decisive decisions to change the game. If they don't work, they don't work. But if he says, look, we need more pace in behind, I'm going to bring on Reece Nelson. But if we need more pace behind and he's bringing on Fabio Vieira, then I have a problem. It's about changing our game state and moving the pieces around effectively. You don't keep Jesus out on the right if it's not working. Go 4-4-2. Don't be so rigid that you can't be fluid enough to change your game. I think score prediction wise, I'm going with a 2-1. I think to Arsenal. I think it's going to be a hugely tactical game. I think we can do it. The fans have got to be up for it. The team have got to be mentally set. If City score first, doesn't matter. Keep creating chances. We've got to create more chances. We've got to give ourselves a better footing in the game that we are, at least we've got something to build on. Creating little bits here and there is not going to entice the fans to say that's where we're going to win. We've got to make sure that we're creating chances because City will create chances. That's inevitable. They're such a good team, technically and physically, that they will not create chances. But we should have enough of in our team. Defensively, we've got a good defensive unit. I'm looking at Zinchenko as well to be a bit more defensively solid because I do worry that the thing is City also have game changers. Doku, they can change the game so quickly. We have to be ready
touched
for that.
on it, didn't he? His speed is going to be, because he's a very quick player.
But that's why they play him as a sub, because if you play him for the entire 90, I don't think he can accommodate that for a full 90 minutes. I think he's a superb player, but he's an impact player at the moment in the Premier League. I think he's got to build up his fitness, but he is an amazing impact player. He's like, Mahrez. Do you remember Mahrez keeps coming on and changes their game? They've got another one there. And we've got it as well. Reece Nelson is also a game changer. So Arteta's got to trust the squad. He's given a 100K contract. So he trusts him in some respect. So play him at the appropriate time, not when we're 2-1 down and it's 85 minutes. Don't do that. Impactful subs changes the game. He's talked about finishers so many times. Come on. I want to see it tomorrow where we're competing. I don't think we'll dominate. I don't think you can't dominate against Man City, but if we're competing and making chances, that's all I can ask. If we go down swinging, I'm fine with that, because at least I see that we are in the game, we're making a fist of it, and that bodes well for the season. It is a marker for the season. Look, the fact is that we have to set a precedent. It is the top two teams. Liverpool are there, obviously. But we've got to set the precedent for how we're going to go forward. If we lose, okay, I'm done. I'm fine. But if we get battered off the park and create no chances, then I have a real worry about our season. But I'm going 2-1. I think we can. The fans will be in for it. Let's get it. Let's get the 2-1. I'm usually the most pessimistic person, as you all know. But yeah, Go on, 2-1 to the Arsenal.
We'll get behind him, yeah. We'll get behind him.
Oh yeah, no, I'm gonna love it tomorrow. Love it.
Oh, Matt, and I hope.
Real. I think I just want to say as well. I think chance creation, what you mentioned, is so important because even the game against Spurs, although I say to myself, "Oh, we should have been 2-0 up, and the game should have been gone because we would have just blown them away from that point." It almost reminds me of early Arteta days when you see one fine margin and you're like, "Oh, we've got to do that. We've got to do that." If you watch City against a lot of their first games, not Wolves, because they didn't actually create much, but even a game like Sheffield United, they didn't nearly drop points because they were bad. They nearly dropped points because they missed chance after chance after chance after chance. If we drop points in that manner, it's frustrating, but that's how it should be. It shouldn't be a case of, oh, we have a few chances. And of course, we've sacrificed a lot to be, arguably one of the best defensive sides in the world, minus obviously the silly errors, which hopefully, or you'd very much expect.
But do you think, here's the question to both of you. Last season, we started at an electric pace and we burnt out really quickly. Come March, you could tell it. We weren't there. We were dead. I think personally, he's trying to ramp up the energy level very slowly because we're not even 70% of what we can be. We know that.
Yeah.
But if you're at 70% and you're winning games, then at least towards the end of the season, you have more in your locker. And then obviously if you supplement within the transfer window, then I think he's learned from last year, we cannot go full tilt because we'll burn out our players. But that also includes the subs. I've come back to my original point that he should be making more impactful subs to, stop those energy levels from dropping. I think as well, the chance creation is a concern, but I don't think we are playing at our full potential just yet. I can't see it's definitely not the same as the same energy levels, and that's not a bad thing because we're winning games, and we're still, we're only 2 points off the lead. We're only 2 points off the lead, playing at 70% capacity, which is not bad at all for us.
I think one other thing as well. Sorry, Dan, I don't want to starve you of your prediction.
No,
get to
right.
that very shortly.
Don't worry, you'll get there eventually. We'll get there eventually. It's fine, mate. It's fine.
I think one other thing as well with the timing of the game is, ever since that game got rescheduled, and I don't know if it's just a mental thing as a fan, but I do feel like every game in the run-in to that Man City game, home and away last season, was being impacted by the City fixture. So playing them earlier on, I think, is as good as anything. And as you said, obviously we're nowhere near where we can be, and we're winning a lot of games and we're getting a lot of points, which is obviously all that matters, so long as that doesn't go on for an unsustainable amount of time, because you can't play a whole season like that and win titles. But Dan, I will let you get your prediction.
No problem. No problem. No worries. No. I'm gonna say 3-2. I think there'll be goals.
Yeah, there'll be goals. No, that's not a bad prediction because it's. Can we score 3? I know against Bournemouth we scored 4.
Can we score 3 with the Arsenal, mate? We can score as many.
With the Arsenal, no, but with the Arsenal, that chance efficiency. No, the thing is that it's an interesting one because again we scored 4 against Bournemouth and we were very clinical. See, that's the problem. We're very Jekyll and Hyde. In a space of a week, we've shown we can be very efficient in front of goal, but not be in the other side. It's deeply frustrating to be an Arsenal fan because you can't say we're going to do this and this tomorrow because against Lens we weren't clinical enough and we didn't create any chances. But against Bournemouth we had 4 chances and we scored all of them. It's which one are we? Are we that clinical side that tomorrow we get 2 shots and we get 2 goals and then that's it? We're done.
We just need Diaz to do a similar challenge to that second Arsenal penalty against Bournemouth. That'll be good.
I will add, though, I do think it was a very poor Bournemouth side.
Yeah, and that's the problem, that it's a poor Bournemouth side, but tomorrow, even if City are not with Rodri, there's still a superb side who will find weapons all over the pitch.
A poor City side can still win the Premier League.
Exactly. That's the point. They can be as poor as they like, and they will still win games because they've got so many weapons on the field. Bernardo Silva's fit. We're all. Tell me we're not all going.
The main thing though was just mentally. They just have it there that it just goes through the squad. And concentration. Don't concede. We are our own worst enemy. Well, my God, we should have won that. Tottenham is deeply frustrating because we should have won that game.
We are our worst. We're getting in our own heads. Tomorrow, clear the mind, mentally focus. Doesn't matter if you go down, but if you go down because of a goal that you made yourselves, as in we can see the poor pass or something like that, then that frustrates me no end. If they score a great goal, it's fair dues. You can't argue with that. But we have to be on our game mentally, because when you get a mental slip, that's more worrying, because then that's going to creep in the season, and it has started to creep in the season, and that's what worries me.
Yeah, no, it's a very valid point. Yeah, and we're going to wrap it up there, if that's okay with both of you. I've got to get off to St. Mary's. You guys have got to go about your afternoons. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on, Yem.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
How do you analyse your debut?
Thank you for coming on.
Oh no, I loved it. I love you guys. I love you guys. I've been there since the start. I wish you nothing but success in any, in with this thing. As I said in the preview show, we're waiting for that moment. With the adverts eventually. That's what we're waiting on, Dan. I want to see your delivery, because I know you are very good with your delivery. So we're expecting big things.
Thank you, man. Now I've written the scripts already. Just waiting for the phone calls and the
exactly.
This podcast is sponsored by the Premier League.
All right, calm down. Fellas, it's been a pleasure. Big thanks to Faisal as well, who said, jumps in, the legend himself. And someone said you're sticking your neck out there. I don't know what that was about.
That was when you covered every prediction as a joke, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So,
you got
right, but thank you so much.
Good luck. Good stuff. It was great. It was a great show. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Yem, for coming on. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I'll buy you a beer or any drink of your choice. It's been great to have you on. And
you can buy me a Schwaber. You can buy a £15 Schwaber.
Do you know what? I might have to do a taste test. I haven't tried one of them yet.
I ain't paid £15 for a Schwaber. I can get that for $2.90 down my local. I ain't paid that.
But thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate your time. Anyone watching, please do make sure to subscribe, like, leave a comment, watch it back or share anytime. Really appreciate that support. We will be back next week. Arsenal will hopefully have a win. You know what I'm thinking? If Arsenal get a win, I think we might do a Monday reaction show, something a little bit different.
Yes.
Sorry, when Arsenal get the win.
No, exactly.
When Arsenal get the win. We will do that. But thank you so much, guys, for coming on. We really appreciate that. We'll be back again with another show next week, and we'll catch you again very soon.